Remember to turn on all notifications so you don't miss a video. The story surgeon is back. This will be another video on the worst scene of CSM. Since then, I've come up with a fair and specific method for analyzing the execution of a theme. I have a video explaining it, and I have videos using it on One Piece, JJK, the original Chainsaw Man, and Naruto. Now, I want to use it on CSM to further explain why this one scene was so bad. This is also poetic because in my first CSM video, I said something like, I don't know the themes, but if I did, they wouldn't improve my rating of the story, and people harped on that. But now that I have a fair way of analyzing the themes, I can show that the themes are nothing impressive. In fact, based on my memory, Season 1's theme report card would be horrible. Maybe I'll make a theme video for Season 1 of CSM, but back to the episode. If you don't know my formula, go watch the other videos. In Episode 2, the mini arc where Denji and Aki kill a fiend, the theme is represented by Denji. It is, you should show sympathy to fiends. Aki represents the anti-theme, and it is, you shouldn't show sympathy to fiends. Denji's theme quote is, I wanted to make it painless for him, when talking about the death he delivered. Aki's anti-theme quote is, if you're hunting them, then drop the sympathy. Aki even puts pressure on Denji's ideology, kinda like Megumi did to Yuji in the Cursed Womb arc. This ends with Denji standing his ground and saying that he befriended Devil, which he eventually does, power. That would have been so poetic. Both of their dialogues are fueled by their backgrounds. Denji could have ended up as a fiend, so he has sympathy. Aki's family was killed by Devil, so he has no sympathy. The only issue here is that the climax, Denji giving the fiend a quick death, happened before the philosophical arguments were presented. But the climax did have Denji physically proving that he stood with the theme. This would have gotten an A if it weren't for what happens next. The story decides to subvert expectations and reveal that the reason Denji didn't use his powers was to keep the blood off the dirty magazines. So the previous theme gets thrown out the window and replaced with protect dirty magazines. Now there is no anti-theme, bringing the execution down to around a C. This is something I've yet to mention because it's not tied to the execution of a theme, and that is the quality of a theme. A theme has good quality if it checks pathos and or ethos. Logos has no effect on the theme. Logos is logic, pathos is emotion, ethos is ethics. Let me give an example. In Baratie, I gave the theme's execution an A+, but the actual theme, grit beats weapons, would be a C because it only checks logos. There's nothing emotional or ethical about the theme. Meanwhile, the Alvida mini arcs, You Should Die for Your Dream theme, would get an A because it has pathos. Here's a visualization. If someone gave a motivational speech purely based on ethos or pathos, it would be moving. But if someone gave a motivational speech purely based on logos, it would just feel like a lecture. That brings me back to CSM. The quality would have been an A pre-subversion, but post-subversion, it's an F because it's a different level of bad. It is a blend of ethos and pathos, but it's using those to teach a negative message, which is to support the consuming of porn. Porn is unhealthy. I take a logos theme over a negative pathos or ethos theme like this any day. And then when you combine that with the fact that this story's demographic is teenage boys, that just amplifies the problem. I basically said all of this in my first video, but now I have a specific unbiased metric for measuring the execution of a theme, and a reasonable way of explaining why the quality of the theme is bad. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and help me revolutionize the manga industry by buying my manga and spreading the word. All important links will be in the description.